What if there was another way to actually live, a way that you can actually start to be in charge of your own healing, a way to get out of this survival mode and into creative mode? Well, it's my job as your host of the Healing Tree Hub to introduce you to some modalities that might actually make all the difference and to give you your power back. My name is Sarah, and I have the pleasure of meeting you every week to discuss new modalities and new topics that are really making a difference out there. So buckle up and enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the Healing Tree Hub again. This is your host Sarah, and today I just wanted to pop on and have a short podcast having a little bit of a chat about perfection. It seems to be in the air at the moment, and I really felt guided to just have this conversation. And it's a real mindset, belief, work conversation. But I want to share some stuff with you guys that I'm seeing out there and stuff that I've been learning in the last 12 months. And I really hope that whoever needs to hear this, it's going straight to you and you're listening to it right now and going, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I needed. So let's talk about perfectionism. And this isn't just for people in the same sort of niche area as me that are mums trying to do their best job being an incredible mother and bringing up these children, but it's also for anybody out there that just never feels like they're enough. I recently did an inner child workshop, and this was a really big thing that came up with a lot of the participants. And I'm seeing so many of my clients coming through talking about this sense of not being enough and not being perfect. Now, let's break down this whole perfect facade. Unless you are a surgeon or in some amusement park making sure the safety standards are in place, or you are building rocket ships, I can't really see how perfection is absolutely necessary in every aspect of our life. In fact, dare I say, when it comes to the normal everyday events, I think sometimes perfection is what stops us from really being our authentic self and actually getting the things that we truly want in our life. Now, hear me out on this one. If I truly wanted to be a perfect podcast host, for example, I would never have started this. I would never be sitting in my car with a $30 microphone connected to my Google and trying to provide this content. I would have been mortified that my audio wouldn't have been perfect or what I had to say wasn't perfect. But instead, I did it anyway. I just went out there and went, you know what? I'm not perfect. This is not the perfect podcast, but it is exactly what someone out there needs right now. So I really wanted to have a chat about this. I really wanted to get my listeners to really have a think about where in their life they're getting blocked and stopped from progressing in their manifestations and in what they truly want in their life because they're just waiting to be perfect, or they're just waiting to have the perfect time. I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, never is the perfect time, but it may just well be the right time. So if you get this urge and excitement to do something and you really, really want to just give it a go, but you have all these self-limiting beliefs sitting there just blocking you, really look at that and really start to see how much it's ripping you off in your life. Does it really need to be perfect? I mean, let's talk about one of the main and most important jobs there are in this world. The most important, and this is subjective, of course, but I truly believe parenting is the most important job, and that's my truth. And the reason why I truly believe parenting is the most important job is because we are literally trying to bring up these human beings that are going to be the future of this world. And that seems pretty massive. Now, I got really stuck in this, guys. I got stuck in this for years. I wasn't always this aligned. I was a very insecure woman, and that woman still comes out. Don't get me wrong at all. Even all the work that I do, that woman still comes up, and I identify her straight away and I'm able to work through it quite quickly. And that's what happens when you do this work. But I was a woman that was running myself crazy. Literally, I think at some stage I was probably crazy. And all I wanted was to be simply a perfect parent. I mean, that's not much of a big ask, is it? I wanted to be a perfect parent. I idolized being a parent, a mother, for many, many years before I fell pregnant. I had so much trouble getting pregnant. And when I did, I expected that I was going to be perfect. Now, we don't say this stuff out loud, but let's be real. We do have these expectations subconsciously on ourselves most of the time. They are there. We see on Instagram the perfect parent. We see on Facebook, we see commercials. We just expect that we're going to be that perfect parent. And here's the thing. I stopped being a perfect parent the day I gave birth. Right there and then I realized I had freaking no idea what I was doing. I was completely out of my league. I had no clue what to do with this beautiful little infant. And to this day, I've now been a parent for 10 years and I have 3 incredible children. And I still have no idea what I'm doing. My husband jokes and says it's the longest living plants I've kept alive. So I'm doing something right. And you know what? In the end of the day, I am definitely not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I lose my temper and I get wobbly and I say the wrong things. And I'm not one of those mums that's really good at keeping up with things on the school newsletter. And I miss the dress up days and I hardly ever remember to tell them to do homeworks. And I'm pretty sure they only brush their teeth once a day sometimes. And I have just definitely not ticked the perfect parent. But you know what I am? You know what I am? I am what so many other parents out there are: a loving, caring parent that's doing her absolute best every single day. And that is enough. That is good enough. You see, it doesn't matter if you're a parent of children or a pet or a plant or an auntie. It doesn't actually matter. If you are somebody that actually truly cares and truly loves and truly wants to do better and truly sees their flaws and wants to do better from there on, you are a great parent. You are a great guardian. You are a great aunt. You are a great fur baby mum. That's the thing. The perfection that I was trying to find for so many years, I was looking for this perfection. It was actually causing me to be the worst version of myself as a mother. You see, I was running myself crazy trying to spend late nights trying to get the little lunches right, because that's what Instagram told me I needed to do. I took away sugar and then I brought sugar back, and then I had my ADHD child on medication at one stage, and then I took the child off ADHD medication. Either way, whatever I chose to do, someone thought I was a terrible parent. So you can't actually win on this one. If you're going by what someone else's version of perfection actually is, then it's a no-win situation. Even your own version of perfection, because perfection in this area, in relationships, it doesn't exist, because every single person has their own belief systems in place. So it has to be that you are just doing your best. Do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I can't stress it enough. This whole epidemic of women rushing around trying to be the earner and the primary carer and the Stepford wife, it's not working. We are driving ourselves insane trying to be this idolized version of what a modern woman is these days. Can't it just be what feels good to us? Can't it just be what makes our family smile and giggle and keeps our family healthy? Can't it just be that? Can't it be what our happiness is rather than what society tells us what our happiness is. And this is something that I really, truly believe. I've seen so many, and where this is coming from, guys, is I'm seeing these beautiful mothers and fathers and aunts coming through and just having so much self-limiting beliefs because they just don't feel like they're good enough, that they're doing it right because society told them that. Well, stuff that. Look, it's all good and well to say this, but where does it come from? Where is all of this expectation and perfectionism coming from? And we can blame the media, we can blame social media, and we can blame society, but let's break it down a little bit further to get down to the root cause. Again, guys, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, but I work in this area all day long, so I really feel like I've got something to say on this. It all comes down to the beliefs that we have built up throughout our childhood, our teenagehood, our young adult times. We're building these belief systems based on something that has happened in our life that we created a story over. And we spoke about this in detail with the Inner Child podcast. And if you haven't heard that one before, I highly recommend. That's a great one to really chain in with this particular subject, because there would have been a situation in your life early on, and there might have been a few, where you decided that it wasn't safe to not be perfect if you're a perfectionist. There would have been a time in your life where you felt you needed to protect yourself from yourself not being perfect. If you are struggling with perfectionism in every aspect of your life, look deeply. Where did this start? What have you been telling yourself about that situation? What did you make that situation mean about you? Again, I can't stress this enough. Sometimes we really need to do the work, and it doesn't have to be difficult and challenging and painful. We need to go there though. We need to have a look, because just like I'm seeing so many of my clients with my inner child work, once they detect where this actually comes from, where this self-limiting belief and this call for perfectionism comes from, it's like a beautiful silk ribbon knotted, and you find that thread and you pull it and the entire knot becomes loose. I know that I struggled, and I'll share my story again because I think examples are really helpful in this scenario. I was a very dreamy, off with a fairy kind of kid. I was always in my own world of imagination, and I really struggled at school. School did not suit me. The whole system was just not right for me, and for many kids. And I was always getting in trouble for either copying people's work, or I was just getting in trouble for not listening. But the truth was, I was trying to listen. I was just so in my other world that sometimes I could only pick up a word or two that someone was saying if they were boring, frankly. And I would constantly be getting in trouble for not being as receptive and as clever as everybody else in the classroom. Now, what this taught me, it really, really did teach me that it was not safe to not get it. It was not safe to be stupid or incompetent, because that's how I saw myself. Obviously, that wasn't the case. I was incredibly talented in other ways. But when it came to academics, I was very, very behind. And that wasn't safe, I learned very, very quickly in the piece. So I've adapted throughout these years of must concentrate, must find a way to get really competent in every subject that I want to succeed in. Never let them know how incompetent I am, or how slow I am, or how unsmart I am. So this followed through to when I became a uni student later in life, or a manager in my workplace. I would just spend hours at night studying, making sure that I was going to get that A, making sure that every T was crossed and every I was dotted, and I was going to be never ever in the situation where someone would find out how unintelligent or incompetent I actually was. And this drove my perfectionism to such heights. I remember my best friend Sol saying, "Sarah, you got an A or you got a B. Why are you crying that you got a B? This is incredible. You got a high distinction or a distinction, but you're sitting here crying. Do you not see the absurdity of this? You don't need a high score for what you're going into. Why are you so upset and down on yourself for not hitting that perfectionism? And sometimes I would get a high distinction, but it wouldn't be the higher range of it. It's like, where does it stop? And just as you hit a certain level, you then have a new expectation for yourself that needs to get better and better and better and better. And it's like you're never ever going to be enough. No matter what you succeed in, no matter how much money you earn, no matter how well you do, or no matter how great your kids are doing, it's never going to be enough, because you will just move that line again for yourself. You will just move it. And you will need to reach it again. But next time it's got to be better. And I catch myself doing this so often. And I catch my friends and my family doing it. I'm watching a friend at the moment drive herself insane because she's not the perfect housewife, because she's not the perfect mum, because she's not able to do everything at all times perfectly. And I look at her and I think, can't you see how incredible you are? Can't you see how your imperfectness is so beautiful? It makes you you. And you don't need to be what society thinks is perfect. You need to be what aligns you, what lights your heart up, what puts that smile on you and your family's face, what brings you true joy, because anything else is putting you in a survival mode. And what I really want for all of my friends and family and everyone around me, is to be in a co-creation mode, starting to create a life that you are just loving. Okay, there's always going to be challenges. We're not going to get our head completely in the clouds. There's always going to be challenges in life. But you can have a life that you truly, truly love. You can create and manifest. But it takes understanding that perfection isn't required, just like the podcast story, just like my workshops. A part of me, that little perfectionist in me, is still there and always will be. And before I do my workshops, I want it to be perfect, and I want to have everything organized and planned. And sometimes I get guided by my, spiritual team, and they say to me, no, we're just going to have to go with it. We're going to have to get aligned. We're going to have to really just see what the energy is on the day and really feel what they need at the time. And a part of me panics, because how am I going to be perfect if I'm not completely prepared? I love to recommend this incredible book. It's called Rushing Woman Syndrome. And it's an incredible book. And it talks a lot about how women are, just what we're talking about in this podcast, actually, how women, especially parents, are really trying to meet those perfect standards of society. And they also touch on the fact that it comes from deep roots of belief systems that have popped up. But what I love about that book is they really get into the science of our nervous system. And if you've been watching me for a little while, you're starting to get an idea that I absolutely love my science. And I love talking to my clients about the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So we have two. And the parasympathetic nervous system, it is our rest, digest, and it just gets us into that calm process. And then there's the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight, flight, and freeze. And this is very, very important as well. It allows us to run away from anything that's dangerous. So that saber-toothed tiger that is chasing you, you need to have your blood and oxygen pumping to your extremities, and it's not so important to have that blood and oxygen running through your brain. So you tend to freeze up sometimes. That's why a lot of people might experience this sympathetic nervous system on a regular basis. And the problem with that is, in this day and age, we don't have a saber-toothed tiger chasing us. We have bills. We have children that we're trying to fit into this world. We have so many new modern challenges, but our sympathetic nervous system treats it exactly the same. It thinks that we need a fight, flight, freeze. And what it does is it basically shuts down some of the systems that aren't very important. And sometimes this could be the digestive system, and it can slow down the way that you're able to process information. And it also slows down the reproductive system, which is interesting for those that have struggled in the past with reproducing. And when you learn a little bit about this, this book talks about how we are, as mothers these days, and again, you don't need to be a mother to identify with this podcast today, but it's a great example. We are in our sympathetic nervous system most of the time, and that is incredibly stressful on our human bodies. We are running rapid with cortisol in our system, and it is taking a toll. It really is. It's affecting our blood pressure. It's affecting everything. And the scary thing is, when we actually do flip over into the parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes we're so not used to being in it that we believe it's exhaustion. And the reason why I'm talking about this, and the reason why I think it's so important, is because if being in the parasympathetic mode is so foreign to someone that they feel they think it's exhaustion because they're not used to being rested and not used to being calm, then something's seriously wrong here. The amount of times my clients have come off the table from having an energy heal and deep meditation or hypnosis, and they just say, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh my goodness, how am I going to get through the rest of the day? And I ask them, are you exhausted or tired, or are you just really relaxed? And they look at me and they say, I'm actually really relaxed. I can't remember the last time I felt relaxed. Now, if you're listening to this and identifying with it, that's something to really take note. You deserve to be able to relax. It's really important that we have that self-care time to relax. And what relaxing means to one person will mean something different to another. But whatever gets you into that parasympathetic mode where your brain is able to get the blood and oxygen it needs, where your digestive system is able to actually process the food, where your reproductive system is able to conceive, or your menstruations aren't stuffed up because of all this stress cortisone coming through your system as well, playing havoc with your hormones. This stuff is really important, not just from a mind point of view, not just from a spiritual point of view, but also a physical point of view. Think about what you're doing to your body. It's incredible, and it needs to be considered. So if you've been feeling guilty, and this one a lot of us struggle with, if you've been feeling guilty for resting, because a voice in your head pops up and says, no, 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 that's not what a perfect mom or a perfect worker or a perfect person does. They don't sit there and rest. That's laziness, this voice may tell you. And you've been avoiding being in a rest state because that internal dialogue just won't let you, that ego, that brain, that mind. Just be aware of what that's actually indicating and what that's doing for you. It's really important to recharge. And that's why we bang on about this self-care business all the time. That's why we talk about putting yourself sort of first. And it sounds funny saying that. Even for me, it sounds odd saying that because, of course, my children will always come first in my world. But it's really, really important that if you run out of batteries, if you go into a chronic fatigue state where you're running on an adrenaline fatigue, we've heard these words before, these sentences before, they are real things. And a lot more people are suffering with this than we realize. And it comes down to this, really, really comes down to these belief systems of perfectionism, because we wouldn't put ourselves under this extreme pressure if we didn't have this belief system in place. So the next time your brain, your ego comes in and lets you know that it's not okay to sit down and put your feet up, or it's not okay to go have a bath once those kids are in bed, or it's not okay to just go get yourself a coffee and sit down and watch the people walking past because you should be doing something, stop, take note, and really look inside, go within. Because there's another very, very important voice, your higher self voice. And that one there will never, ever criticize you. It will never make you feel bad for doing something that is good for you. It will love you unconditionally. And if you start to tune in to that voice, and you'll know, you don't have to be clairaudient to actually know this, then that voice will guide you. It'll guide you out of this rushing woman syndrome. I'm going to steal that term from the book. I hope that this conversation helps. I felt this was a really last minute podcast. It literally just came past me when I was doing my makeup and I was feeling the pressure of the day of getting it all right. And I thought, I wonder if anyone needs to hear these words. And I wonder if this would help. And I really feel like it will. Enjoy this book that I'm recommending. Again, not affiliated, but think it's really, really important that a lot of, especially women, listen to this because it talks a lot about our hormones. But it doesn't hurt for men as well. And this goes for men, women. It's neutral. And I'm wishing you all lots of parasympathetic mode moments in your life. And thanks so much for listening again. Have a great week.